So without further ado, let's talk about email marketing. Woohoo. Let's see. So to define email marketing specifically, it's over here. Come on now, baby girl. There she goes. Okay, so put simply, an email marketing can be defined as an email that is sent from a business or to one or more customers or prospects. By prospects, I mean other businesses. So a lot of what we're covering today is thankfully good for anybody who's interested in doing any kind of business, whether you're B2C or B2B, product-based, service-based, virtual product-based. These will work for you, which is really exciting. So, I see also we have a Brenda on the call who is also a member of our team. Can we mute you, Brenda? Yes, thank you. Excellent. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, great. So Jason, would you like to talk a little bit about the why behind email marketing?
Jason does have to unmute.
I do have to unmute myself. Yes, thank you. So most people are aware that there's lots of different things you can accomplish with email marketing. What a lot of people don't realize is that email marketing is actually statistically, when used correctly, better at communicating to your customers than even social media marketing. This has changed a lot in the years because Facebook and Instagram, they've kind of changed their algorithms on how that you're able to connect with your customers, where it doesn't necessarily mean that when you post something on social media that it actually ends up being seen by every single one of your followers of your company. Facebook uses algorithms to display your content to your followers based on what they engage with. And email marketing is still a very, very key part of your marketing strategy. Some of the different ways that you can do email marketing, and it's very important to kind of break apart your email marketing, because from a business to a consumer, really the world of newsletters is kind of dead. There's not really these long, big newsletters anymore on a B2C market. If you are a company that has either a sales team, affiliates, or a community builder, these types of things are where newsletters can help with when you're advocating for specific communities and stuff like that. But if you're talking normal commerce, directly to the consumer, newsletters are gone. And so what has been replaced with that is targeted marketing. And so some of those targets you can focus on are things like boosting your sales. And these are things that you would want to do very strategically and to specific audiences. So you want to segment your customers to nurture and target them directly. Special offers to like really, really loyal customers that buy from you monthly, that are giving them a special offer because of that, and not sending this to your entire group of any customer that bought from you recently. We're talking very specific email campaigns to maybe only 50 people in some cases. The other option on your boosting your sales is you're wanting to set sales goals for your targets, and measure them based on previous activity. So when you do a targeted campaign, see what the results are of that, and that can help set your expectations going forward. If I send an email to this type of audience with good content that they can engage with, then that's going to expect a return of such and such. Another option outside of just boosting sales, because not everyone is wanting to just be doing sales all the time, is engaging new customers and building kind of that brand loyalty. These can be specific follow-up communications on a customer when they first bought, some automations that you can have in your email communication for people to follow up and do a review for your product, offering some sort of promotion or program in order to get that engagement. Again, because they're a new customer, we're not necessarily saying, let's offer them a discount just for being a new customer. Offer them a discount for some sort of engagement, completing their account set of profiles so that you have access and you can, connect with them via social, or, having them do a product review of the first product that they purchased for a discount on a future purchase, subscribing to some sort of communication channel that you all have in exchange for a discount. Those are the types of kind of engagement that you'd want to do with new customers, and when you would want to do any sort of discounts or stuff like that. But engagement is key when it comes to upfront, and kind of giving them an exposure of what it's like to communicate with your brand. Outside of engaging new customers, the other option that can always be lined up with either holidays or specific inventory things is clearing out new customers, or clearing out inventory, or doing some liquidation sales. This is key and really should only be targeted around either when you're transitioning to new products, if you're a company that has seasonal products, such as in the fashion industry or something like that, and you're needing to transition from old to new. You always look at measuring the cost of maintaining that inventory versus and keeping that inventory in stock versus liquidating it out and getting it out to customers. These flash sales or holiday clearance things, the key part on those are to offer, yes, good discounts on them, but to be very extremely limiting in time. You don't want to be doing a holiday blowout sale all month long. It needs to be something that's like 24, maybe 36 hours. The other thing that you may want to do is be very targeted in how you communicate this out to customers. If you have a customer base or a group of customers that always buy your nicer items, they're higher end customers, they buy the more expensive things, they're not always buying on discount, it doesn't make sense to clutter their inbox with communications in regards to this. And that's a little bit contradictory to what people normally think, like, oh, I'm going to send like the best sales to my best customers. Well, I would add a little bit more to that and say you would want to send your best sales to your best customers that buy on sale. If they are buying on sale, then they're wanting to do that. If these customers that are higher end customers and you don't see them engaging with your sales emails as much, then it doesn't make sense to clutter your communication to them and have them have to possibly unsubscribe or just think there's too many emails coming from you if that's not their mode of buying. Some customers don't respond to sale, they respond to giving back, or all the other options you have for marketing the customer. But this is a very good strategy that is used very often. Tom's is one of the, I don't know if you want to subscribe to their newsletters or anything like that. They have a very good targeted use of their clear out sales, where they, in essence, remove their return policy. It's always last season merchandise that they need to get rid of, and then very, very short windows. If you don't check your emails daily, you're very likely to miss their blowout sale if you're a customer that buys on sale. And then finally, another additional option is for ways to communicate would be support, give back, social campaigns, and not social as in social media, but campaigns that really are supporting causes and things that are dear to your heart. Again, there's lots of companies that have gone this direction on supporting causes that you love. And there are a lot of people that do buy in that manner, especially everything that's going on now with COVID and the pandemic. This is, and Black Lives Matter and everything, this is a key part of marketing. And you don't need to be doing discounts and support at the same time. Redirecting those discounts to be just giving back to organizations that matter to your company and your brand, and championing that brand, not only gives a fresh perspective of like why a customer wants to purchase and support you, but also it gives you the opportunity to be less self-promoting, promoting this other brand and the cause and what they do. You can almost turn your communication on its head a bit, where your email and your content is focused around the great things that that organization does, and then you kind of close it out with, you know, sales from this is going to benefit this organization. And you don't always have to give a specific percentage in the beginning. You know, it's always good to obviously monitor how much you're going to give, and then, you know, have a follow-up campaign to people that bought afterwards and say, thank you for your purchase. Your, you know, dollars, you know, allowed us to do this and give this back to the organization. You know, those are good follow-up campaigns. Really, again, you know, newsletters that used to be looked at as a single email campaign, like, you know, our campaign is one email and then we see what happens. That's not the case anymore. It's very much, you know, creating an actual long-term campaign, and how do we engage with customers that did engage with our emails or did purchase and didn't, and what are the follow-ups of all those things. So, you know, there's lots of different whys on and ways that, you know, email marketing fits into, based on kind of how you want to, you know, market your business and what your business needs are in that moment. But, you know, that's just a bunch of things on why. So I'll turn it to Danielle though on how, because that's a key thing. Like, you know, a lot of people probably know why I would want to send an email out, but how do we do this effectively? That's another story. And Danielle, I know you have lots of experience on that.
Oh yes, I am very happy to talk about the how. I did want to mention before we moved on to the how section, referring back to under the why, causes you love. If for those of you whose brands have an audience demographic that might be, for the most part, millennials or Gen Zs, our YouTube generation. Those two generations in particular really have an affinity for supporting brands that support local causes. So it's the whole meeting the triple bottom line, which we see a lot in new businesses as well anyways. So just a thing to point out, if you're catering to those younger two generations, giving to causes is a great place to start. So how do we do this? Here's how. So there's a few things that I want to cover under how to get it done. There are obviously a million ways to get these things done. Every brand has its own specific needs, individuals that they're catering to, and objectives in their marketing. So for today, I'd like to go over picking a platform, how to establish a plan on how you plan to implement these email marketings, and then how to review and test, and then actually go through and follow through with your planning. So let's start with platforms first. So MailChimp, HubSpot, ActiveCampaign, and are all offered as freemium versions, meaning if you are a solopreneur or if you have a small team that operates under your business, there are free options available. But if you're looking, however, they also offer bigger plans that do come with an associated price tag, all of which are affordable depending on the nature of the size of your business. It's usually 5 or more team members or 3 or more team members, depending on which one. So these platforms are used to push out your information. They also help store your email addresses. This is also a great spot for where you'll create those segmented lists of your audience demographic, as Jason mentioned earlier, talking about targeting specific audiences. A lot of that can be managed here after you've gathered that information from your customers. I do also have to say, we have to mention the Squarespace built-in campaign manager, because we are big proponents of Squarespace and using it as a platform for websites. They are really a one-stop shop. And their built-in marketing and campaign manager programs are very user-friendly and work super well in a very short amount of time. So yeah.
And that's always a good thing, Danielle. I want to add that you know, always look at all of your tools that you're using. So Squarespace has a built-in marketing campaign, which is great for those that are on Squarespace sites. Shopify has a great built-in marketing campaign for those that are on Shopify. Mm-hmm. And really to utilize these different campaigns. HubSpot has lots of different integrations, so does ActiveCampaign.
Yes.
Picking your marketing campaign tool, you need to take into consideration What is your website platform? What social media channels are you using? How are you communicating to customers if you're using a CRM or a phone tool? Automate as much as possible and use these built-in integrations to power your business.
Absolutely. So if you are on, I can't think at this time of an e-commerce platform or a web hosting platform that doesn't have any kind of built-in integration, but say you're working in WordPress, let's say that. I don't believe WordPress has their own platform management tool. These would be something to look to as far as using for your management platform for all of your email and marketing campaigns. Yeah, so these are all great. I have a little bit of experience in the Squarespace, ActiveCampaign, and HubSpot. I haven't been on MailChimp in a really long time, but so far so good from what I've heard from colleagues and within our, amongst our team members. So yes, brief summary on platforms. So now that we've figured out where we're going to start, let's talk about how we're going to start. So like many things, a plan is going to be your greatest asset. These plans have, oh, excuse me. These plans have a lot of information in them that is shared amongst your team members if you're operating outside of a solopreneur perspective. As a Virgo, I have a moral obligation to tell you that calendars are the best thing that will ever happen to your life. So use that calendar. So in your planning, we would recommend sitting down with like your marketing team or people who are in your community that you work with that might be able to advise you on marketing. If you want to call us, you can do that as well. And start plotting out important milestones that happen throughout the year. This includes holidays, timeframes when you'd like to plan some sales around said holidays or any other anniversaries or celebrations that you acknowledge or observe consistently in your brand or business. And then use that plan to share the wealth and delegate. So if you have that opportunity, and including in the delegation, that means also using your platform to plan out some of these things. Yes, we highly recommend having a plan for your email marketing because this gives you an opportunity to reference something that works for you throughout the year. And it also helps you when we are in certain times when we need to be innovative and pivot in another direction. You have a point of reference for everything you've done in the past, an idea of what you were looking to do in the future, and then plan around that, implement around that, and delegate it out so that everybody's on the same page. Your brand stays consistent and transparent. You know, even if it means planning for responses in like what we're dealing with in COVID-19 of day-to-day changes of closures, navigating and moving your business onto an online perspective. These are just a few examples. So yes, planning. Jason, is there anything that I forgot that you'd like to mention as far as planning goes?
No, I mean, the only other thing that I would say is, I'm not sure the size of individuals, organizations that are on this call, but if you are more of a manager and you have a content person that is helping putting together these emails and doing the communications with your customers, or if you have a customer, if you have someone that's actually answering the phone calls and that isn't you, I would say you would want to make sure that you empower them to give input on the planning, because the people that are directly interacting with your customers have a much better understanding of, the personalities of your customers and the different types and what they'll respond to. It also helps that if they're involved in the planning, they also understand what communication is going out to the customers when they're dealing with the customers either over the phone or in person, and can help direct customers easier without you having to train them afterwards.
Absolutely. And I think that might be a part of the next step. Canned responses, my favorite. I know we're going to get to it. Okay, so last thing we'd like to recommend in your how is reviewing, testing, and repeat. Just like a lather, rinse, repeat. It's perfect. It needs to be done every time. Testing and reviewing your content before you push it out to your community is, I would say, pretty integral as far as speaking to like the reputation of your business, brand loyalty and validity and dependence on your brand and whatnot. So in order to maintain consistency and make sure that everything that you send out to your community is at 100%, 110%, 24/7, you can follow these steps. So first things first, make sure you're testing any links that you include in your email marketing. So give it a little click, make sure it goes to the right page, see if it takes a long time to load, et cetera, et cetera. Also make sure you're testing those links on different devices. Thankfully, most campaign managers do have built-in responsive, mobile responsiveness, meaning it will automatically move, modify the content as to better fit whatever size of screen your user is working with. Sometimes that is not built in. Sometimes we just don't know. So it's good to take a look at it on your phone. If you have a smart device such as a tablet, take a look there as well. Different desktop size screens, different browsers even. I know it may seem meticulous, but at the end of the day, it's a very important process, and you will get faster with the process the more often you practice, like anything.
And keep in mind to also look at dark mode, which is a new addition really last year that Apple picked on. Android's had it for a while, but Apple picked that up last year. And I think right now Apple estimates it's like 35 to 40% of their phones are running in dark mode. So when you send out those emails and you don't put a background color in those emails and they've got black text, then the customer can't read them.
Yes.
And also keep in mind when you're, not only just when you're testing, reviewing, but make sure that you take a look at what your email looks like before the graphics load in. Most customers are going to get a notification when your email comes in that says, oh, well, this contains third-party graphics. Are you sure you want to download this? Well, when they're first looking at your email, it's without those graphics. And so if I've received many a blank email until I download graphics, and sometimes I'll just delete them because there's nothing like that looks like it's interesting for me to like click download the graphics on them.
Yeah, absolutely. I am also one of those people. If I can't view it on my phone without having to download the photos, I'm gonna delete it. So it is important to include graphics in whatever kind of marketing you use, absolutely. However, please always make sure to attach some sort of call to action copy that exists outside of it. This is something I didn't put in earlier, but if it's possible, putting in any kind of alternative text descriptions for the images should the image fail to load, or if you have a visually impaired user who's reading through your content. Definitely something to think about. Yes, so definitely the dark mode, making sure you have copy and calls to action that associate with said graphics so that your document is readable at any time. And then just very last couple things. Try and send that out to a third, fourth, or fifth pair of eyes before you send it out to the rest of your community. Oftentimes we spend hours working on these email marketings, several at a time, and it's very easy to miss spelling errors or design flaws or things of that nature because you've seen the same document so many times. So it's really important to, if you are able to send this document, send out your email marketings to other people to review and just say, click through it, tell me what you think, what do you like, what did you not like about it? And that insight will really help you continue to grow and update and further innovate your marketing efforts in this perspective. So yeah, okay. That is all on the how. Jason, would you like to talk about the tools?
Sure. We'll be happy to talk through tools. So there's lots of different tools. We talked about platforms and stuff like that, but there's also lots of tools that you can implement within these platforms. And really, let's start off with the key thing, which is lists. So many clients that we have that go through and do email campaigns. They email all of their customers as a single list. And that results usually in a significantly reduced return on your time and investment there. So I definitely recommend, you can take a single message or a single campaign, and although most of the content is very similar, you can break that into your different lists of customers and segment that content and have it more targeted to your different customers. So customers that buy on discount mostly, or customers that buy, your nicer things and always spend a lot more money with you on average. And you just look at their average order value, for example. Customers that have birthdays in that month, or, if they're a business owner or a manager versus just a normal customer. There's lots of different ways that you can segment your group together and keep them individually in lists. There are platforms that you can, most of these platforms that we recommended actually do support this list segmentation, and a lot of them also support automated segmentation based on behavior that they've had. And so you can put in your e-commerce platforms, for example, give me a list of everyone that hasn't bought in 6 months, or every customer that placed their first order, or however, there's ways that you can curate these and create lists of customers so that you can email them more specifically. So that is often underlooked or overlooked. People think, oh, well, I'll just send it out. All my customers need to know this. No, not all your customers need to know everything. Like, it's best to segment things out. The next part is graphics. As Danielle said, graphics is key in your emails. And there are 2 parts of graphics. Your main, you can take a 1 or 2, 1 to 4 word like main point that can be included in the graphic that you're actually trying to, get your point across. But your actual body copy of what they need to know, what's going on with the sale, what's going on in the promotion, what organization that you're supporting, that copy, that text should not be embedded in that image. That should be to the left of that image, above or below the image, however you kind of want to structure it graphically. Some things that you may want to look at is if you've got a graphic on, one side or below or above it, you can tone the panel of that copy in that you're sending that informs them of what's going on. Tone that color, that background color, to match that image. Go with simple images. That is also a key thing. Don't make the images too busy. These offer a little bit more cleaner and a little bit more digestible to the customer. They're not squinting at a tiny image on their phone trying to figure out what it is. But some tools that you can use for that, Canva is a go-to. If you all haven't not discovered Canva yet, definitely go take a look. They've got tons of templates, tons of best practices. And of course, we've got PicMonkey and Vector, some other options. And with all of these different tools that we've been talking about, not just the Canva and these things, but even the tools that we were talking about before, the email campaign systems, all of these tools, there are 2 parts that they offer you that a lot of people don't focus on. There are the actual usability and the platform that you can do, but they also, almost all of them have videos on how to use their tool effectively and use cases of things that their customers have done where they've had a lot of success. So don't hesitate to go to what they probably call their support section. Support doesn't necessarily always mean, hey, I don't know how to use your tool. Things like suggestions on how to best utilize their tool, or ideas on things that you can do, you can get from that company. I mean, that is a part of the service that you're paying for when you do some of these subscription services. So definitely utilize that. So outside of the graphic parts, which is obviously very responsible, is some of the automations, or what we like to call little canned responses. And the automations or canned responses, I know sometimes people get a little cringy where they're a little worried of it, I don't like talking to a machine, and so you shouldn't either. So canned responses shouldn't be treated necessarily as a replacement of a person. This is not a replacement of of trying to get them to not contact you. Canned and prepared responses are more for acknowledgement and just feedback to the customer. Think of it like when you go to push a button. If you go to push a button, it doesn't click, it doesn't buzz, it doesn't bing, or it doesn't. If there's no feedback, your immediate thought is, did I click that button? Maybe I need to click it again. And so that same kind of logic applies to when a customer tries to reach out and respond to you. Yes, you may know that it is after hours and the customer should be able to see your hours and should know that it's after hours because they're sending you a Facebook message or an email at 1 in the morning, that you're not going to respond. But that customer, that may be, maybe they work during the nights and they're asleep during the day. Maybe that is their daytime for them, or especially if you're an online consumer, maybe their Pacific time, your East Coast time. There's lots of reasons why that they could be responding at night. So having some automated responses on Facebook that gives them what's going on. Thank you for contacting us. We're currently closed. We usually respond within this much time. We look forward to talking to you soon. These kind of things for holiday closures, thanks yous, customer support, those automations really add value to that communication to the customer because it is a continuing conversation that you're having with the customer. It's not just this one thing about the sale. It's thanking a customer for becoming a customer for the first time, talking to the customer about being a sale, dealing with the customer complaint when something doesn't go right, they didn't get their order in time, and then following up with the customer on how they like the product and keeping them as a brand advocate for later on. So using these automations is very key for that in the long term. And outside of that, there's lots of different tools that you can find. I wouldn't try to jump in and use every single tool all at once, because again, going back to what Danielle was talking about earlier about testing and trying and all that sort of stuff, really it's best to kind of optimize and implement one tool at a time that you really get to using well. And then from there, move to the next and the next, get some things and processes under your belt where they're running smoothly and you've got them running before trying to add in the next things. Because otherwise you don't implement fully, you don't implement well, and then you don't get the response that you want. And, the response you want really builds towards, a more successful future. And so with that, I'll probably turn it back to Danielle to talk about future and planning for where you're going for your future.
Segue. That was perfect. I love that. One thing I wanted to mention with Canva specifically, since it's a program we use often, even without having to pay for the premium plan, Canva can also act as a graphic storage place for you. If you're like me and you work with a lot of graphics and you can fill up your Google Drive or Dropbox pretty quickly, Canva also has up to a 15 gig free storage that you can reference of an upload library, and then also re-download if you ever need to. So just a little tiny promo for them. I love that program. It's saved me many a time. Okay, so we talked about our how, or our why, the tools you're going to use to get there. Let's talk about the future. So we're back. The planning has returned. As a reminder and a re-emphasis that planning is your best friend. We're going to plan for the future. So that involves setting short-term and long-term goals, using that good old calendar I talked about earlier, and then revisiting and reassessing your options, which comes along with testing and retesting, I'm sure. So as far as goals, we recommend setting. These can be broad or simple. The goals need to cater to you and your brand's specific needs and how you plan to get there. So this can be anything from letting your customers know about near empty inventory, or planning ahead for awarenesses that you want to raise, rather more awareness about organizations you want to partner with, things of that nature. Again, it's just always good to have a plan to reference for the future ahead, because as we are all learning, we don't know what lies in the future. And so having some sort of backup plan is really beneficial for your goals. I would also like to mention, this is something I didn't include in the presentation, but having a business continuity planning plan can also include your marketing. If you're not aware of what an economic business continuity plan is, you can check out our blog. I wrote up a little article about that will give you some more resources for that kind of planning as well. In addition to planning for goals, I just want to reemphasize, get that calendar, get multiple calendars, get a calendar that you can save as a PDF, get a calendar that can be shared on all kinds of devices. These calendars are going to plot out your brand goals, the holidays, the anniversaries that I mentioned, the staff birthdays, etc. Having your calendar you can set up alerts for yourself, for your staff as well. And again, it really lays out everything that you plan to do throughout the year as far as sustaining your marketing efforts. And finally, the revisit and the reassess. So obviously, we want our email marketing campaigns to work for us, right? Unfortunately, we can't predict how our customers behave 100% of the time, but we can build and strategize towards how they might behave or interact with our content based on previous experience and based on past email campaigns or marketing efforts you may have had. So as you're planning and setting goals for these marketing campaigns, make sure to find ways to take note of your progress, success or otherwise. Some of these platforms we've mentioned previously do offer some built-in analytics. I could speak directly to Squarespace. Squarespace offers you analytics like your open rate and the percentage of users who clicked on your links and the percentage of users who didn't or downloaded a specific file you might have attached. So those kinds of stats, that kind of information is going to help you plan ahead for what's your next campaign going to look like. I sent the last one out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and had 30% engagement. Should I try maybe 7 o'clock in the morning to see if I can increase that engagement and get people before they go to work or if they're going to bed, depending on what kind of day-to-day life cycle in the individual or your demographic has. So always make sure you're revisiting your plans and reassessing them using the tools that we mentioned. And again, test and test and test. We're always testing, we're always tweaking, we're always working to innovate and be more sustainable brands, both in-house for us and the clients that we work with. So it's a good tenet to live by, I should say. That was definitely a more brief one. I hope that was still an informative section, and that pretty much covers it. We do have a little brief recap. Jason, if you'd like, I can rattle through this very quickly. Or is there anything else that you wanted to cover that we didn't get a chance to talk about yet today?
No, I'm great.
Okay, awesome. So just to recap, email campaigns, they are easy to make. They're an extension of your brand. They are really your secret sales weapon towards further marketing and sales success. These campaigns can help you boost your sales. They can help you engage and reach out to new audiences, prospective businesses, etc., or even clear out your inventory if that's something you're looking towards. Like we've said several times today, email campaigns require a lot of planning, a lot of prepared communication, and a lot of testing. With all of these things in mind, I hope that we were able to provide you some guidance and resources on how to effectively plan out future email marketing. At this time, if it's okay, we're at the 11:40 mark, which is excellent. I would like to open it up for any questions anyone might have, if that's okay. I don't know if that's part of the process.
That is totally fine. We can actually go to a gallery view. So we can stop your screen share. And that way we can see everybody.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Oh, great.
And anybody just feel free to jump in, really.
You probably got to unmute yourself, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's nice. Or chat your question, and if you don't feel like you want to talk or mute, you can definitely do that.
I see so many chats. Look how cute. Oh, hey friends. This is so great. Yes, everyone loves Canva. I'm so glad.
I have a question. Oh, go ahead. Yes, hello, this is Cindy McIntyre, and I apologize if I was going in and out. I'm actually setting up a wedding right now. And my question that I have is, we talked a lot about people or like businesses that sell products. What if we're service-based like myself? So I haven't personally done email campaigns, and I feel like I'm only going to work with a client for a little while. So they might subscribe to whatever I'm offering for their year planning process, and then after that, unsubscribe. So when you talked about list compilement and all of those things, that's my, I guess, confusion. Do you have any tips on someone that maybe doesn't have a lot of repeat customers?
Yeah, so what I would say is, and we are a service-based business as well, so we definitely have a lot of understanding of that. So if you're not a product company, if you are a service company, when it comes to your email campaigns, I would definitely focus them more on giving teasers and a little bits of information that show the value of your service, that shows what you bring that they may have not have thought of. You don't obviously want to give away all of your secrets that that you're that you do, but like definitely give them things to think about, or a little bits of information for them to contact you for more information or to be helpful. Then one-on-one, if you feel like you want to give them some more information before they become a client, then they're in your sales funnel. As far as following up when you're running a business, like wedding planning business and that sort of stuff, where your customer, the wedding's done, everything's gone. I would segment that customer into a past customer, and your communication with them is really more around. I would say your value add after that is having them be a resource to refer people to you. So doing recaps of weddings, for example, and beautiful things that you have planned, asking for feedback on what they liked about their weddings, or things that went well,
for sure.
Move them to where you're not really trying to sell them anymore, but you're trying to keep them entertained and interested, so that when their friend is getting married next time, they're like, oh, I had this great wedding planner. I still get emails from her on these amazing stuff that they're doing. You should go talk to this person. Let them be your salesperson.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I would also recommend, if there is, I'm not completely aware of all of the ins and outs of event planning for wedding coordinating and whatnot, but as far as possibly how you manage your relationships with your vendors and individual brands that you work with, if it's some sort of a monthly check-in, or here are some new venues that I'm working with, or you have a referral code for a florist from a caterer, let's say, for both working together. If there are some kind of incentives that you can offer that way, that not only builds a closer relationship with the vendors that you work with, but then you're also able to potentially connect other vendors with other vendors, so that they can maybe connect in other ways, work with some of the venues that you're working with, work with other brands to come up with their own marketing. And so you're kind of fostering this network within your industry of people who rely on you, and who can in turn rely on each other, knowing that you are the connecting point. Does that make sense?
Yes, no, definitely. I love that idea. I really do.
Absolutely. Everything that we've talked about today, and we have a blog that I believe got published this morning that accompanies this presentation. All of this can be interchanged for the most part to apply to service-based businesses as well. It just depends on what needs to be tweaked to fit your needs as your brand.
For sure. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for asking. That was a great question.
Hi, this is Peter Saltadera. I'd like to ask a question. What are your thoughts about the importance of A/B testing and testing the different ad creatives that you're sending out via email marketing? And of the platforms that you have mentioned, which one of those has the best tracking ability to where you can see the effectiveness of between two different campaigns, and which ones are going to acquire, which ones receive a higher click-through or open rate compared to one another?
Yeah, so on A/B testing, I actually really like A/B testing. It is something, though, it's a bit more advanced where a lot of companies don't have the time to create the content on A/B test, but it definitely does add some value. Some of the platforms that are on the more affordable side, like the ones that are integrated with Squarespace or Shopify, don't have A/B testing natively, but what they do have is the ability for you to do multi-campaign and segment your list into different pieces. So what you can do for an A/B test in those examples are have the same campaign but have an A and a B version, and separate your list accordingly to test and review that. The other part that I think is really important that a lot of people don't look at is and we talked about that a little bit earlier about making sure that your email platform is connected with either your CRM tools if you're a service-based business, or your e-commerce business if you're selling a product and good. It's important to see not necessarily just your open rate and your click-through rate. I think those are very important, but the most important thing to see would be what are your sales, and that may not be an immediate turnaround. And if without being connected, it's difficult to see that, because a customer may click through, they may look at a product and then buy that product later on that night, which your standalone platform won't see, but if you have an integrated platform, it would be able to see. And really, it's very, you brought it, you're saying exactly right. In essence, you need to look at how your emails, both in tone, images, the type of messaging that you're sending, whether it's discount based or cause based or anything, the response rate you get from your customers is key to changing your future communications. That's you have to do things based on what you're getting responses on and what are engaging customers, not necessarily always the same type of style communication that you've done in the past.
Absolutely.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Jason. I knew you would love to answer that A/B testing question. I said, allow me. Take a step back. Who else? Any other questions, Lacey?
We have a question in the chat from Cindy, and it is, what can help to get more emails in the inbox and not to the junk or spam folders?
So on those, there's a couple of things that email systems are always looking for when it comes to spam. Frequency of emails is one thing that they're going to look for a lot, and actually a lot of platforms that are out there like Google and stuff like that, they're actually monitoring inbox sends or inbox receipts based on your IP addresses that you're sending things from. So that, maintaining your pattern of how frequently you're emailing them is key. You want to, you definitely don't want to email daily, but even once a month is a little bit too long. So finding, that in-between frequency, making sure that you have copy above images. Images that are in emails are usually looked at as a possible junk or spam if they haven't been followed. If that customer hasn't, added your address to their address box, there's not a lot of times where someone's going to send an email to their friend with just a bunch of images. So having in some built-in copy at the top is important there as well. You do want to separate your email sends for your marketing communication different from any invoice or order confirmations, anything that we normally call those transactional emails. So emails that result in a customer engaging with you, like either buying a product, rating a product, creating an account, paying an invoice for a service. All of those need to come from a different email address than your marketing communication, just to protect that line of things. And then finally, the other part is using a actual real email address. So there's a lot of tools out there like the MailChimps and stuff like that that allow you to have in essence like a fake email address that you're sending from. That's not really the actual email account that you're sending from. And Google sees that. Google and Gmails and all these things, they know when a email system is coming from a separate system. Finally, outside of that, on the spam and junks would be shorten emails. So the newsletter, again, that newsletter template that's really, really long, that also gets frequently flagged as spam or junk, because normally people won't send, you know, that long of a content. So, you know, those are just some suggestions, but yeah, newsletters and emails, emails and it's definitely a gray area. Not everything is always going to go into an inbox with a customer.
Thank you, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I've got a question related to nonprofits.
Sure.
So currently, without opportunities for outreach and in-person interactions, trying to get email addresses to make sense, do you have any recommendations for how to obtain email addresses and contacts for an organization that's not selling services or products?
Yeah, building your donor base and your donor communications and stuff like that. You know, I can respond a little bit on that one, and I'll also let Danielle, because I know she's really involved in the community and works with a lot of nonprofits and stuff. So, you know, for gathering contact information, you know, I would, depends on, you know, obviously the structure of your nonprofit, but you definitely want to have subscribed forms built both in your website and on your social media. Facebook has blocks you can add in to subscribe to newsletters, where you can make sure that they have communications on that. Surveying communities for input, I think, is also a very good valid point of where people feel that, you know, if you're taking in their opinions and making sure that, you know, that you're getting, you know, input from them and gathering their email address for further communication. You know, those are a good way, because people like to tell their opinion. They definitely like to speak, you know, speak their mind and give it, you know, give an opinion of what they like. I don't usually recommend buying any lists or anything like that. That, you know, doesn't necessarily always work out, especially from a larger, from like large listservs or list buys. So those are not always helpful. But on a engagement side of things, if you do belong to either like the chamber or the Main Street Association or you know, organizations that do meetings and events and stuff like that, that's a good way to build lists off of local community members within your community. And the chamber does have a way you can actually purchase a list of executives and local business owners if you are looking to build a donor communications list. That would be probably the only list I would recommend buying locally, would be something like that, because you can get, you know, obviously email access or email contact information for local, you know, business execs and stuff like that. But those are some options. Danielle, I know you work with a lot of nonprofits, and this is something that is dear to your heart. What else have you seen that's been successful in building that donor list?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I want to give a tiny brief shout out to the United Way for their Project Blueprint class. If you work for a nonprofit or are on a board for a nonprofit and you haven't taken this class, please go check it out. It's where I learned all of the great things, and it made me want to be a better servant to the nonprofit community. With that, so since you are working in a nonprofit industry, you understand and recognize the importance of personal connection, because that personal connection helps you get those dollars through the door. You also probably understand that it's really important to have to run, facilitate, manage campaigns throughout the year that keep users engaged or wanting to be drawn to your organization. I would recommend, as far as like with having the obstacles we have now of not being able to engage with people in a physical sense, there are obviously still things that are going on behind the scenes within your organization, and a lot of those things could probably speak to an individual's desire to want to know about what their dollars are actively doing, even during these times when we're not able to serve and give like we normally do. So I would say possibly think about developing some sort of a sub-marketing campaign that kind of highlights stuff that you're doing now, resources that you have available that might be of interest to your audience, and then use that as a call to action to get those users to visit your website and subscribe to your newsletter or your email list, or reach out however is most manageable for you. And then build that list of people who are interested still in your story, and then use that list to cater to them and say, okay, this is what we're doing. Just because I have Kiara on here, who is part of the Denton Animal Shelter Foundation, an amazing asset to this community. You all are, the animal shelter and the fund are doing a lot of work to help support both people, people within their community, and still are able to provide really great stories behind how they've changed, how they've grown, what they're doing to adapt, safety precautions, things of that nature, what they're doing to continue to sustain their efforts is of interest to their audience, because they know what their purpose is, and they care about the work that they're doing. So finding those ways to take your efforts that you're doing now to make sure that your nonprofit survives in this crazy time, and use that to tell a story, because your story is your strongest asset as a nonprofit. Really, it's also a very strong asset for other brands, but as a nonprofit, when you're fighting for all those dollars that other organizations are fighting for too, your story is what saves you and gets that person in the door, or those dollars to the bank, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one way. If you want to talk about that more, I will gladly get a coffee over Zoom with you anytime.
All right. Thank you very much.
Of course.
We're just about at noon, so we have time for one more question if anybody else wants to jump in. And if not, that's totally fine.
I gotta go back to work. I can get it.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, thank you, Danielle and Jason, for hosting this. Very informative, very educational. I think we all learned a lot. And thank you, everybody, for attending. It was nice to meet all of you. Hope to see you next month. So thank you. You guys have a great rest of your day. We'll be seeing you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks so much for having us. It was a really great time.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really had fun.
Awesome. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.